Do you hear me? Okay. Good morning to all of you. My name is Giuliana Griffi, and my role is Head of Operation and Quality Control at RES4Africa Foundation. I'm very pleased and proud to represent the foundation today. We would like to thank the United Nations Pavilion that hosted us today for the first panel of the day that is regarding the youth empowerment in driving African energy transition. And we welcome all the participants to the event, both in person and online. We would like to give a special thanks to the Italian Ministry on Environmental and Energy Security because they facilitate our presence in this pavilion, and they believe in youth power. We would like also to thank both Enel Green Power and the European International Bank for the sponsorship of the 3 winners of the RES4Africa Award, Youth Award of the year 2022. We have to say that we have the 3rd edition of the award, and this year we have also a special mention on top of the 3 winners. We, as a foundation, believe in Africa, we believe in youth power, and we do our best to promote innovative renewable projects that can play a role in mitigate the climate change. I would like now to give the floor to Mohamed Alhaj, that is our moderator for the today panel. Mohamed is our chairman of the Youth RES4Africa Task Force. Please, Mohamed, join me. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mrs. Giuliana. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and good morning. I know these morning sessions could be a bit difficult for people to come, but I'm happy that we have a lot of attendance. So today we're discussing a very important topic, right? We're not just discussing the energy transition and its importance for Africa's socio-economic development, but we're also discussing youth. And as Africans, we are one of the youngest continents. In fact, more than 60% of our population is under the age of 25. And these youth are the ones who are going to be mostly affected by the impacts of climate change unless we take strong action right now. So without further ado, because we have a lot of, quite a big agenda and a number of interesting speakers and more important interventions, let me start off with our first speaker, Mr. Enrico Barbato, who is the head of ecological transition in the Office of Energy and Environment at the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Mr. Enrico, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today, and thanks to RES4Africa for having organized this event and inviting me here. It is a remark of a very solid and long-lasting partnership that we have with both the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Italy that I represent. For many years, Italy has taken a firm and action-oriented stance in favor of young people. Last year in Milan, on the occasion of the pre-COP, Italy provided young people from all over the world an extraordinary opportunity to voice their opinions, share ideas, and think together about the pressing issues of the climate agenda. The outcome of this was an unprecedented manifesto, a bold plan across 4 thematic areas: climate ambition, sustainable recovery, non-state actors' engagement, and building a more conscious society. In this spirit, we launched the Youth for Climate initiative, which evolved into a long-term vision initiative co-led by the government of Italy and the United Nations Development Programme, which will act on several dimensions. It will support concrete and innovative youth-led solutions. It will enable the sharing of knowledge, opportunities, and experiences. It will strengthen youth inclusive and enabling environment and focus on capacity development. I'm very proud to say that we have already reached significant results. In particular, I refer to the following. First, the Africa Climate Week in Libreville, Gabon, last August, where Youth for Climate hosted 6 young RES4Africa champions and allowed them to share their energy solutions and contribute to the youth activities. And second, the flagship event that we held in New York on the sidelines of the 76th UNGA, where 150 young people from all over the world spotlighted what they are doing in their countries, communities, and organizations. Indeed, what we aim is to provide young people with robust tools to implement their ideas and solutions, which combines resources such as direct grants, capacity building dedicated webinars, and a massive program developed with the UNFCCC called Youth for Capacity, and also networking activities through the Youth Engagement Platform. All of this makes Youth for Climate unique in its work and makes it a safe platform and an environment to support youth engagement at local, national, and international level on climate change, on building on creative and impactful partnerships to advance youth-led actions across the globe. In this regard, only by nurturing synergies with effective entities like RES4Africa, we can find climate solutions that work for all of us. The Young Talent Award goes in this direction. Identifying young people that are developing innovative solutions is the goal. We count on youth determination to accelerate the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals and the implementation of the Paris Agreement. Young people are bridges connecting a multilateral space of countries and communities, are the agents of change of the present and the leaders of tomorrow. Italy is committed to leading by example and partnering with young people to accelerate solutions to the climate crisis. Investing in youth promises a more peaceful, sustainable, and inclusive future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Enrico, for these remarkable insights. And I think this is also a great opportunity to thank the Italian government for their leadership in supporting not just the energy transition, but supporting the active participation of youth in this journey. The next part of our discussion will be a video by the president of RES4Africa Foundation, Mr. Salvatore Bernabe, who is also the CEO of Enel Green Power, who are one of the key partners and supporters of the Young Talent of the Year Award.
Good morning to everyone. I'm Salvatore Bernabe, President of RES4Africa, and I'm really honored to welcome. Good morning to everyone. I'm Salvatore Bernabe, President of RES4Africa, and I'm really honored to welcome to you to this third edition of the Young Talent of the Year Award. This initiative is a cornerstone of the activity of RES4Africa, and I'm very glad to stay every year here with you to award the winners. My appreciation go first of all to Roberto Vigotti, the Secretary General of RES4Africa, for his activity and his continuous commitment to do brighter RES4Africa, but also to the European Investment Bank for organizing and co-sponsoring this initiative. And finally, I would like also to thanks to Marta Caradonna and Maria Caterina Mattiolo of the RES4Africa team who made this event possible. I would like to congratulate with all the participants, because year after year we see an increase in participation to this prestigious award. And it is a good sign, because it is a sign that young people from Africa are really committed in producing a real impact in their countries, in their communities, by proposing initiatives that contribute to the development of the economies, of the improvement of the environment, and that have also a strong social impact. You are shaping the future of your country. You are shaping the future of Africa. So you are making the way that Africa could have really a brighter future. And you are also doing another thing. You are working to reach the objectives of the Agenda 2030, in particular of the goal number 7, that is providing access to affordable, reliable, and clean energy to everyone, and to Africa in particular. Your work is very important. Your projects are very important also because they contribute to make more independent the countries where we live. We are reckoning in these days how important is the concept of energy independence. If we look to what's happening in the world due to the consequences of the war between Ukraine and Russia, we see how important is making our own countries more independent from the energy standpoint. And your initiatives are valorizing the resources of your countries, the resources of your territory. That's why this is a seed that is aimed to be really the beginning of a new, let's say, kind of growth that is more sustainable for your countries. I would like also to take this chance to speak a little bit about what RES4Africa is doing apart from this particular award. We are launching very soon a youth fund that aims to provide some grants, some mentorship to young African entrepreneurs and startups like you, so that they could develop their own ideas and finally to really leave a mark like you are doing. Then we are also centralizing all the training activities under one umbrella that will be called RES4Africa Academy. And finally, we have also launched some months ago the Youth Task Force. That is a group, a panel of young representatives from different countries. And these young representatives are forming this task force that is discussing, making proposal, and finally, 2 people from this task force are represented in the advisory board of RES4Africa. So we are doing the following thing: listening to your proposal, but also including your proposal within the activity of RES4Africa, giving that way the possibility for the young generation to be represented and to act as a protagonist also in the activities of RES4Africa. So within such context, the RES4Africa Young Talent Award competition, once more, is very important for us, and that's why I would like now to go to congratulate with the winners, because although there are a lot of participants, but unfortunately we can only award this to 3 people, and we have also a special mention this year. So, glad to announce the winners of the 3rd award edition. And congratulations to Chemela Anosike from Nigeria, to Grace Nentesa from Uganda, to Dive Kwebatuka from Republic of Congo, And last but not least, I would announce a special mention to Salah El Sadi from Libya. Congratulations again. You are testimonial that empowering youth means empowering the development of bigger communities. But most importantly, thanks to your activity, you are showing that with concrete ideas and then concrete projects, we can do this transition from blah, 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 from storytelling to story doing. You are doing things, and it is great for you, for your future, but for the future of Africa. Congratulations again, and ciao.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salvatore, for these remarks, and congratulations once again to the winners. It's also very great news that Mr. Salvatore also spoke about the launching very soon of the Youth Fund, which should be no doubt an important initiative to support youth entrepreneurs in Africa. Our next speaker is Mr. Ambrosi Faioli, who is the Vice President of the European aspects are considered when we design programs that empower and support youth. Now I'm gonna ask questions to the youth, right? We're talking about youth empowerment, so let's actually hear from the youth. And I'm gonna start off with Nora, who's my colleague in the Youth Task Force, and she's the founder of Drop Access. They're doing really amazing work. Nora, can you tell us about the gender perspective, which is a very important thing, right? Because when we talk about socioeconomic development, there's a lot of elements. We'll try to touch on some of them in this 10 minutes left in this session. So Nora, tell us more about the gender perspective and why is it very important when we talk about youth and the socioeconomic impacts of the energy transition.
Okay, thank you so much, Mohammed, and thank you, RES4Africa, for allowing us to share this wonderful panel. So, if you look at the history of the human interaction with energy, and I'm focusing on Africa, you see that ordinarily women are the users of energy in our society, the active users of energy, and you find the men become the active payers of energy in the society, and that just naturally comes to the gender power structures. So the men actually are the custodians of the money in the African community, while the women are the recipients of the technologies that are coming. Now, if you look at how that imbalance has played out, you find that it's been such a huge hindrance to adoption of clean energy technologies within the African market, because where women receive what's already been produced for them, they have little say, and yet the men are the custodians of the money. And this hindrance has caused a mismatch in the kind of technologies that are being brought into the continent and how they're being received. So it's very, very crucial for us to be able to find or strike a very good balance on how women actually do engage in development of these technologies, how they take part in building these technologies, and to ensure that these technologies are actually designed to form part of their persona. And when you look at the traditional ways of where the men actually were the custodians of the financing, at the end of the day, the finances are almost the sole decision makers on what kind of technologies are being churned out to the market. Literally, they have the biggest say. So it's also very crucial for the men in the society to also understand that the woman persona needs to interact with this technology the best way to improve its value proposition and its effectiveness. So once we find we are striking a balance in who pays for the technology and who uses the technologies, I feel like that is going to improve such a very good uptake of these clean energy technologies within the continent. And I've seen that also with my organization. I manufacture solar refrigerators, and the manufacturing space has solely been dominated by men. But when I came into the industry, I found myself actually being able to design refrigerators that actually fit the woman persona, and that increases their uptake. Then also providing education and insights and real-life experiences to the custodians of the finances, like, hey, this is how we need to design these technologies, this is how we need to price them for the market and improve the most value for them. So once we strike that very good balance, then it means we're able to improve the quantity of uptake for these technologies and just create a very appropriate match, because there's so much financing that is going into these technologies, and it doesn't really match the uptake. So we need to create that a very sharp gender balance within the clean energy space to just promote adoption.
Thank you so much, Nora. I think really your story is quite an inspiring story in the work you do in your organization and the numerous amazing awards that you received. So I wish you all the best in your career ahead. I'd like now to talk about another element of the socio-economic impact, which is education, right? How renewable energy can be an enabler to improve access to education. So, Grace, can you tell us a bit more about that? Especially that I know that the innovation that you've made in your company can be applied in so many different applications. Increasing access to education is potentially one of them.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to talk about how education can be an enabler for how access to electricity can be an enabler to education, because also of my background being a teacher, I've worked in a school where there was no access to electricity, and also I've been in modern schools where there is access to electricity. And according to Power for All report, 35% of schools lack access to electricity. That is near 900 million children do not have access to electricity. And this comes with a lot of challenges. One, they don't get inadequate time to study. For example, extra times when there is no light. During evening, they cannot get time. I remember when I was teaching, when it would be like when it is a cloudy season, like you could not teach because there is no light in classrooms. So you would wait and maybe you teach when there is enough light for the classroom. So those are some of the challenges. And access to electricity, one, promotes lighting in schools, which provides extra time for the students to read, and this promotes their performance in schools, hence reducing the school dropout. And then also it promotes quality education, because now schools can get ICT services, laptops in schools, which also leads to access to internet and information, which improve the education at large. Then also when you look at clean cooking technologies, we know that very many people don't have access to clean cooking technologies. Even back home, when these students go back home, and this is mainly affected by the girl child, because they're the ones that need to go back home and fetch this firewood. So they spend a lot of time doing house chores, looking for firewood, so they don't get enough time. This does not only affect their health, but they don't get adequate time to read their books. Therefore, they don't perform well in class. So this leads to also school dropout rates increasing. Research shows that most rural schools perform poorly because they do not have access to electricity.
Grace,
access to
sorry to interrupt. Could you conclude very briefly? Yeah, because we're almost out of time. Thank you.
Access to electricity increases quality and quantity education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Now, another element of the socioeconomic impacts of the energy transition is how we can enable improving or increasing economic productivity. And Divine, this is where I want to ask you, especially that the technology that you've developed can be used to increase, or definitely is used to increase the productivity of farmers. So your views on this and how energy transition can be an enabler for improved economic productivity.
Thank you very much, Mohamed. So I thank again RES4Africa Foundation for this opportunity. So I think that one of the challenges we faced at the very beginning was how to do with a lack of electricity. So that gives us an informed decision to design our technology in full solar energy. So because of energy poverty gaps, that's something to be bridged. In Congo, for example, there's still over 3 million of people don't have access to electricity. So that was very difficult to deploy, for example, cold chain logistics in this area. That gives us an informed decision to run on sustainable energy. So, and how we can improve farmers and local activities with sustainable energy. So, in addition to that, the using of sustainable energy, for example, give us an important advantage for example, small farmers who don't have access, who don't have capacity to buy the cold room, but now they can preserve their perishable food with a little bit of money and reduce losses and increase their income. So the using of sustainable energy also give us an advantage so we can decentralize and install our technology in the off-grid locations. So we have also provide to the local community who don't have access to electricity, so the clean energy system that can allow them to have the light and to charge their electronic device. So I think that we have all the raw material in Africa here to do this transition. So we can also improve local community to increase also the productivity in Africa for using sustainable energy. So in solar energy, we can do a lot of applications like the cold room storage. We have also irrigation system.
Divin, you can also conclude briefly because they're
thank
almost
you very
out
much.
of time.
So, I think that the best way to address the to improve productivity and local community is to use the sustainable energy in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I apologize, but since we're almost out of time, Jamila, in 1.5 minutes, and apologies for this, your views on another important element of the socioeconomic impacts, which is how it can be used to support access to healthcare. And this was no doubt a very important thing during the COVID-19 pandemic, where a lot of healthcare centers in Africa struggled with the storage of vaccines and so on. So your views on this in 1.5 minutes only. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the question, and thank you for being in this great panel. So I'm going to share a bit of a story to create a perspective to that question. Sometime in 2015, I lost a sibling because we first took him to the hospital. He was unconscious. So when we got to the hospital, we needed an immediate oxygen supply, but because the hospital have no power supply for that, so we had to make arrangements to take him to the nearby hospital. Before we got there, we lost him. So there are several cases of loss of life in Africa, in most, Nigeria, for instance, hospitals because of maybe energy cutoff for power, oxygen supplies and all of that. So this tells us that energy plays a very vital, there is a nexus between energy and the health sector. Now, for most public healthcare services who doesn't have access to energy supply, most persons with a focus on those living in rural areas, most persons tend to seek for these medical services in other private institutions who can afford this. Now, hospitals, of course, need energy to service most of the basic amenities they need, the blood refrigerations, basic sterilizations, and all of that. Now, but because they can't afford this, some of the private hospitals, private institutions that can afford it are usually very expensive for most persons living in rural areas to afford. So it's very important that we have a lot of conversations around powering the healthcare sector because, of course, like from the instance you gave, during COVID with the influx of patients to hospitals, a lot of hospitals didn't have enough equipment to cater for most of those patients because most of the amenities they use need energy to function. So there is a close connection between the energy sector and the healthcare sector. And I believe that with so much attention being given to that, we could save more lives, of course, and we could also increase the efficiencies of the services rendered by these healthcare sectors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Camilla. So, as a brief conclusion, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of socio-economic impacts of the energy transition that Africa can reap, and youth play a central role in this. We need definitely more capacity building programs. We need more support for youth entrepreneurs in terms of funding and capacity building. And most importantly, we need a lot of partnerships between the public, the private sector, international organizations. Unfortunately, we are okay, Mr. Fuad, but
yeah,
in 30 seconds, because there's another session
yes,
about to start now.
30 seconds, because it's this year is together for implementation. So, and as Schneider Electric is a company for energy management, so let's boost the energy of this room, boost the energy of this session. That I was privileged that I worked for many African countries like Egypt, Morocco, Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, and Kenya, and I can tell you that there are unlimited resources and talents and capabilities within Africa. So I encourage all companies, all private sector to work with these talents, because we can have lots of ideas, lots of creative things that will manage the energy transition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Wan. Thank you very much, dear panelists. Thank you also to our audience.